Hello from here at what is now a very windy Carrow Road, where Hull City and their 3-game unbeaten run has come to a crashing halt, losing 4 against them. So that's it. City beaten. The 3-game run is over for now, as the lawnmower clearly wants to go past at this exact moment. I don't think City can have too many complaints, if I'm honest. They weren't without chances. They created plenty of their own in the game, but the problem is Norwich created an awful lot more. And as we have been saying for a while, even with the 3 wins as good as they were, you always felt that perhaps against better opposition they may get their naivety and the way they operate, the kind of the cavalier style, may get exploited, and that was exactly what happened. Norwich could have been 2 up before they scored their first. Two chances basically straight through the middle, and they needed Ivor Pandor to make big saves. But unfortunately, you've always felt today that Norwich would take those chances, particularly with players like Sainz, who is just a joy to watch, even if you are hoping he doesn't do it against your team. But and Sargent up front, who is just, I think he scored something like 16 goals in 20 games or something ridiculous. I struggled to see how he's here beyond January. He's so good in front of goal, and apart from penalties by all accounts. But yeah, I digress. City had been given 2 warnings before they conceded in the 16th minute. A really good goal again. Sainz down the left-hand side, pulled it across. Well, he was allowed to run across the edge of the box, and we saw that in midweek actually, that City allowed Kyoto, the player, to come in off the flank and get shots away. It happened again today that Sainz was allowed to run across the edge of the box. He laid it off to Nunez 20 yards out, and he pinged it top corner, and it was a really good goal. But as good as the strike was, and I don't want to take anything away from Nunez because it was a wonderful finish, but too easy. It was just so easy. And within 4 minutes, it was 2-0, and Sargent scored at the back post. They just, my concern, and it hasn't gone away, is that's 72 chances in 4 games that City have allowed up. And yes, they want to play on the front foot, and you admire that about the manager. You admire their intent to keep going forward. But the problem is, they are so open through midfield, and they're so open. Their defensive line at times in that first half was, I feel like it's ridiculous that you are asking for trouble, and then you're putting so much pressure on then Jones and McLaughlin, who came off at half-time for Charlie Hughes. I'll come on to that in a minute. But they are so open, and they are against the better teams in the division. And Stoke, Cardiff and QPR were great wins. Don't get me, I'm taking nothing away, because they were great wins. But in 4 games, they've conceded 72 chances. That is just mind-boggling, and that is going to come back and bite you when you play better teams with better attacking players. And Sainz is tremendous. He scored the 4th goal, and it was to cap off a really good home performance from Norwich. A wonderful lob over Pandor, and that came after Kai Gordon, the on-loan player from Liverpool. You may know the name Gordon because he was the player Norwich needed to get in to allow Abu Kamara to go to City on deadline day. That little transfer domino effect. He scored, but again, that came from just haphazard defending. City were caught. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's wind it back. So they're 2-0 down after 20 minutes, having already seen the goalkeeper make 2 or 3 really good saves, a bit like we saw in midweek. They still created moments, City, but probably the best one in the first half came from Bellumi, who I thought was very good. Again, Bellumi crossed from the right hand side. Chris Bedia got up in front of goal and he glanced it wide. You really felt that had to go in. Having been 2-0 down, they needed to get the next goal in the game. If they'd have got it, different game. If once Norwich got the 3rd, you always felt that would be game over. But City started the second half really well. They created chances. Bellumi had a shot that George Long, who came off the bench, former Hull City goalkeeper, saved. Made a mess of it, but he saved it. Bellumi then put a beautiful ball in from the right hand side, a bit like his goal against Cardiff, when his first goal, where he pinged it in, it angled into the far corner. Similar thing, but there was no takers. He then hit the crossbar with a beauty of a free kick on this right hand side. He got it up and over the wall, but unfortunately it cannoned off the angle and went away. And City were on top. The Norwich crowd were quiet. Norwich were giving the ball away. City were on the front foot, but again, they didn't get that goal. They didn't get that third goal in the game, which would have got them back in the game and given them a platform. And then, you know, a complete cluster of errors in the 6-yard box. They were through. You thought that Norwich were going to score the third goal. Ryan Giles, who came on, made a brilliant tackle to block Josh Sargent from scoring. Charlie Hughes then got the ball, but then unbelievably sort of just rolled it straight to Gordon, who slid it in the back of the net, and that was kind of out of nothing really, because City had been so much on top, creating chances without necessarily working the goalkeeper enough. But they've gifted Norwich a third goal, and from that moment on, the game's done and dusted, isn't it? And they're 3-0 down. They had the ball in the net at 3-0. They had João Pedro was on the bench today. He came off. Abu Kamara, and I'll come to Abu in a minute, but Abu Kamara came off the bench with João Pedro, and he was really effective on the left hand side when he came on. He beat his man. He got a cross in him, and João Pedro put it at the back post. Very similar to the Sargent goal earlier in the game, actually. But it looked to me like the top of his arm. He's gone with the top of his arm. Perhaps the ball was a bit too far in front, so he couldn't get in with his head, and it's hit the top of his arm. The replay for me is a bit inconclusive, but the referee has disallowed it, said he handballed it. Tim Walter after the game was not happy with that decision. He felt it would have been a goal, but they were, you know, that would have been 3-1. It's difficult to make a case for City coming back, but given the way they flood attacking areas with players, you wouldn't have put it past them. It's at the other end that was the concern. That Norwich also had a penalty, again, which was a bizarre decision, because the ball's come in, Louis Coyle's arm is sort of down, I don't know if you can see, but sort of down there, and it's hit him. Referee Tom Neild has played on, no penalty. He's then given a penalty. I guess it didn't really matter because Sargent hit the post, so it's not like it went in and they paid for it in that respect. But Tim Walter was unhappy with that decision. He was equally unhappy, if not more so, with the goal that was disallowed. And then the fourth goal, as I say, City are pushing to try and get something, and Borja Sainz, who is just a top player in this league, scored a wonderful goal over Pandor. Look, Phil, no chance of playoffs. Yeah, I think it's going to be a season of transition. I think it's going to be a season where they win a couple of games, they get a couple of beatings like this, because they are so open. You know, I come back to the point that's, you know, Norwich have notched up 21 attempts again today, and City have lost 4-0. But you can't give teams, and it is the way they play. They are open, they are naive, they do leave a lot of gaps. But against the better teams with the better attacking players, they're going to punish you. And let's be honest, at QPR, they could have been 4-0 down after 6 minutes. It was to the goalkeeper's credit and a bit of profligate finishing in front of goal that QPR didn't take a chance. And if they go 1-0 up, you don't know what you're dealing with. But Norwich, again, we all felt, I think, and you guys watching, I'm sure, were acutely aware of it and would have had these conversations yourselves, that against a team with Norwich's attacking players, of Sainz, of Nunes, of Sargent through the middle, they weren't going to pass up those chances, and they've taken 4 of them. It could have been 5 with the penalty, but for Pandor making 2 great saves early on, it could have been 6. It could have been 6 or 7, and yes, City could have been a 5-3. I think, you know, a 4-2, a 5-3, a 6. It could have been anything. It was a really open game. But if City are going to have any chance of challenging the top 6, they've got to tighten up. And I'm just not convinced that's the manager's style. I'm not convinced that he wants to play a pragmatic midfield. I'm not sure that is what he wants. I think he just wants to go and outscore the opposition. That's all well and good if you can score 3 or 4 a game. But if you don't take those chances, then you come away from here being beat 4-0. And could quite easily have been beat 6 or 7, but for a missed penalty and 1 or 2 other chances that they should have gobbled up equally. Look, I still think if you'd have, after the Sheffield United game, and Tim Walter maintains that his team played well that night, I mean, we can all agree to disagree. You know, if you'd have offered 9 points from 12 after the Sheffield United game, you'd have probably snapped your hand off. So I think, if you look at this block of games, 9 points from 12 is after Sheffield United, or even 9 points from 15 since the last break is a decent return, and unfortunately, or whichever way you look at it, the way that Tim wants his team to play, there is a chance you're going to get a pasting every now and then, particularly away from home against a team that can play like Norwich. So that's I think that's what we're going to have to accept this season. And they are getting better going forward. They look at but I thought Balumi was very good again today. City's most attacking player. I really like what he does. He's been compared to Riyad Mahrez, and you can see that likeness. He's only 22, and he's got something about him. I really like Balumi, and he was their best player. You felt if there was going to be a goal come in, it was going to come through either Balumi scoring it or creating it. Liam Miller didn't get much change out of Fisher on his side. I mean, there was a moment in the first half where Miller's had his shirt literally ripped off him, and the referee's given nothing. Miller had to have a change of shirt because of it. So the referee, I don't want to get into that conversation and blaming the referee, but I didn't think he was great today, to be honest. But he's not the reason that Hull City were beaten today. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read some of these comments. Luke, yeah, he does change the midfield a lot. I think that is largely down to the fact that he hasn't struck on a partnership that he thinks is effective. Zambrano was brilliant off the bench at QPR, made a real difference. He gave the ball away in the first minute today, and they've gone through and should have scored. So Zambrano is what he is. He's young and he's inexperienced, and he's going to do something well, and then he's going to do something not so well. He's going to make mistakes because that's what young players do. I didn't think Malin was great today. I thought Regan had a tough game. I think they need Alzate to get fit. He came off the bench and looked okay before, obviously, the third and fourth goal. But I think Alzate will be the player that comes in and is a regular. The problem they've got at the minute is players are perhaps starting and not having a particularly great impact, but then players are coming off the bench and maybe having a good impact. So then they start, and then it's back to they're not particularly doing that great from the start. So Casey Palmer was dropped today, but didn't get off the bench, which surprised me a little bit. It was good to see Charlie Hughes. That's the first time we've seen him in a Hull City shirt. But what a tough introduction coming on for Sean McLaughlin when you're 2-0 down away at Norwich. He made a couple of really good blocks, but then obviously gave away he made a howler for the third goal. But again, he's a young player. He's not played. He's just recovering from appendix surgery. You have to cut these players some slack. There's no games for them to come in and cut the teeth. They haven't got a cup game where perhaps it's not quite, I'm saying not quite as important. I don't mean it like that, but where you've not got points on the line. So he's not playing, and he's coming out here in front of 27,000 people with his team under pressure and 2-0 down. And if he makes a mistake, it's magnified because they score from it. So, but it was good to see Charlie. I thought he looked bright, he looked powerful, he won a couple of big headers. He was keen to try and get on the ball, and as I say, he made an error, but that happens. Ryan Giles came off the bench. We've just spoken to Ryan just in the tunnel back there. He made a really good block, but unfortunately it then fell to Hughes, who didn't do so well, and they scored the third goal. But he can't get in the team, and he's desperate to get back in the side. But Cody Drame's got that place nailed down. But now Charlie Hughes has come into the team. Does that make when we play Sunderland in a couple of weeks' time now, 2 weeks tomorrow, does Charlie Hughes come into the team from the start and give, is that his way into the team? Lots of questions about Gustavo Puerta. So many comments about Gustavo Puerta. Matthew is one, Luke is another. Puerta I think he's still finding his feet, and ultimately the manager at the minute doesn't think he can get in the team or give something to the side. So he played in the 21s last week. He played away at Coventry in their fifth win in a row. He scored. He's close, but obviously he's not close enough to get back in the squad. He's only been in the squad once or twice. He's not got on the pitch. So again, he's a young player coming in from a foreign country, trying to adapt to life at City, life under Tim Walter, and in the Championship. And that's not an easy thing, is it, for a young player? And they also have got a lot of midfield options. But as one or two of you have said, all the time he's changing his midfield. One week it's Simons, then it's Zambrano, then it's Malum. So there's a lot of changes in midfield, and it's difficult to build those partnerships when you're constantly chopping and changing. The rest of the team has been settled relatively, but that midfield area, they're trying to find a system that works, that gives them a bit more control. But there's just no control in what they're doing in terms of their midfield, and they're being bypassed. And as we've been saying for weeks, they against quality opposition at this level, they will get cut to pieces, and we saw it today. With the likes of Sainz, who's just a wonderfully gifted, intelligent footballer. But what Norwich were doing wasn't particularly intelligent in the sense that they didn't have to think a lot, because City was so high, and if they won the ball in the centre circle, it was just one ball through, and whoever it would be is clear and through on the goalkeeper. So they just have got to tighten up, and I'm all for wanting to play open attacking football, but there has to be an element of common sense. There has to be an element of being pragmatic and trying and not being so naive, because you will concede 4s and 5s, and you're not going to win football matches by conceding that level of goals. And as I keep saying, 72 chances in 4 games against Stoke, Cardiff, QPR and now Norwich is too many chances. But they are, look, let's be fair, they're still a work in progress. There's a lot of new players, a lot of them still haven't come into the team, a lot of them still aren't fully fit. It is going to take time. I don't think we'll see the best of this team probably till after Christmas. And I know that sounds dramatic, but you've played 9 games now. You've got another 5 or 6 after the international break, before the next one in November, and then you run into Christmas, and then you've got the pause in January for the FA Cup break. I don't think we'll see. I still think we're going to see a lot of chopping and changing. I still think we're going to see a lot of this sort of stuff up to Christmas. And you've got to hope that they'll pick up a lot of points, which I think they probably will do, because we've seen in the last 3 games before today. Now they've got. My concern before was I didn't see them winning the game. Now you can see them winning games, because they've got the ability to carve out chances. And although they didn't take any today, in the last couple of games, 3 they have. And against perhaps weaker opposition, they might be okay. Now they've got Sunderland, and they've got Burnley the first 2 games back after the break at home. Then they've got I think it's Portsmouth, Derby and Oxford, the 3 promoted clubs in 3 games. So look, they're a work in progress. There's going to be setbacks. They're going to lose games. I still have concerns about the style of play and how they go about shoring it up, because you can't concede the chances they are and expect to win too many football matches over a period. But there are things to be positive about. I'm not being, I'm not shutting it down and being negative. I'm just being realistic and being objective about what I see. And they've just got to tighten up. They've got to be more. They've got to be a better cohesive unit. They need, just through midfield, they've got to tighten up, because you can't give teams 20 chances a game, which is what they're doing at the minute pretty much, and expect to win. Yeah, Steve, look, we can make excuses. Are we making excuses? I'm not sure we are. I'm not sure we're making excuses today. They were beaten fair and square. I don't think anybody could argue that Norwich didn't deserve to win. And if it had been 5 or 6, I don't think people would have gone, well, that was a bit OTT, because they missed a penalty and they had some really good chances. Yes, City had chances of their own, but they didn't have. I'm thinking back. I'm struggling to say they had 4 or 5, 6 gilt-edged chances that they missed. Yes, goal disallowed. Luke, my first reaction was it was handball, but I'm sat. I don't know if you can get the perspective, but the press box here is in line kind of with where I was sat. Is about in line with the 18-yard box, and it was the goal was at the far end. And my first instinct was it hit his arm, but I'm behind João Pedro, in fairness. So the replays I've seen 3 or 4 very quick, like bang 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 replays. For me, it's inconclusive. It definitely hits him like up here. Whether it hits him on his shoulder or whether it's his shoulder or the top of his arm is. But ultimately, it's been given, and they're 3-0 down by that point. Yeah, as I said before, yeah, they might come back and draw 3-3, and I wouldn't have put that beyond them. But the 3-0 down, when you need to be taking chances a bit earlier in the game. And Bedia, for me, had the best one in the first half from Baloomi's cross when he's risen 6 yards out, maybe less. and he's not. If he gets a proper glance on it, proper head, it goes in the net. He's glanced it wide. Those you've got to take those anywhere in the Championship, but particularly at a ground like this that they've not lost to here for 18 or 19 games. You've got to be taking that, and that was at 0-0, I think. So I don't think we're making excuses. I think there is a narrative around City that there's two camps. You're either in it's a shambles or it's a work in progress. I think you can be in the middle. I think you can think that it's a lot of what they do is naive, but equally a lot of what they do is also promising and really exciting. I think you can raise concerns, legitimate concerns about what you're watching. You don't have to be kind of. I just think in football now you can't have an opinion without being called out on one side or the other. I've seen enough to be enthused and be positive about, but my underlying concern, and it's been there since pre-season, is they are too open. They give away too many chances, and therefore at points they will concede an awful lot of goals. And I think they need to be more pragmatic, but I think they can be more pragmatic without being perhaps at times like we saw last season a bit too negative. I think it is a difficult thing to try and find that balance, but I think you can do it. But I think you need to find the right personnel that can control the game from midfield, because as I say, they're just too easy to play against at times, and we've seen that today. Now, look, I'm getting a nod that we need to leave the ground. So, I wanted to raise one thing, and no doubt again, I'll get there'll be people that criticise and people that agree. Tomorrow is World Mental Health Day, and there was a big, the front page of the programme here was all about that. There was a big point before kick-off. There wasn't a minute silence as such, but both teams got in a huddle. They were encouraging everybody in the stadium to have a conversation to promote mental health and mental health awareness, and saying that every 90 minutes a person dies by suicide in this country, which is a devastating statistic. Abu Kamara is a young player. He's 21. He made a decision in the summer that he wanted to leave this football club that he'd been at since he was 11. That was his decision. The Norwich fans obviously didn't like it. There was a warning before the game that he might get some stick. Their manager spoke about it. He was warming up down in front of me, in front of the stand here, and he was getting dogs abuse. Now, I get that football has banter, etc., etc. At what point does abuse to a young footballer does it cross that threshold from being banter to being abuse? Football fans give banter, it is part of the game, we get that. But for me, some of the stuff that was hurled at him here today was not acceptable. And I don't think we should just go, well, it's okay because it's football, or toughen up, or woke, or grow up, or all that sort of stuff. We can't, on one hand, want particularly men to talk about their mental health and try and look after people. Players are humans at the end of the day. Yes, they're very fortunate. They've worked hard to get where they are, but they're fortunate to do the job, to be in this position. In some respects, they earn an awful lot of money, but they've worked hard to get here. I don't think we should just brush it off and go, well, it's okay to chant X, Y, and Z at him because it's banter or it's football. Just get on with it, deal with it, stop being this, that, and the other. I just think it's a real sad indictment of the society that we live in now, that you can abuse somebody to that level and just laugh it off and criticise somebody. You don't have to agree. If you're a Norwich fan, you don't have to agree with Abu Kamara's decision to hand in a transfer request and want to leave the football club. He chose to do that for his reasons, for his career. He felt that was the thing he wanted to do. Yeah, we always get a pantomime villain, yes, giving him a bit of stick here and there, depending on what the nature of that is. That is part and parcel of the game. We get that. But some of that this afternoon, crossed the line. I don't think it's okay. And I don't think we should just brush it off and go, right, you need to grow up, it's football, blah, blah, and some of the stuff that I've seen on social media. If we can't talk about, in one hand, trying to promote people's mental health and try and help people and get them to talk about it and look after each other when that's happening. So look, I just wanted to say that. Thankfully, Abu came off the bench, had a really good game. Obviously, he did his talking on the pitch. Actually, he was really good for City. He set up the chance for João Pedro, and having had a really tough start to his City career, being hauled off on his debut at half time against Sheffield United. I felt that he did really well. And to his credit, he walked off head held high. His team have just been tonked 4-0, and he's clapping the home fans. And then he's being Philip Taplovic has put his arm around him. Shane Duffy, the Norwich captain, went over and spoke to him. So look, there we have it. Yeah, Tom, we could have lost 8-0, could have won 3-2. We said that before the game. I was speaking to one of my colleagues who watches Norwich. He was like, what can I expect? I said, well, it's one of them. City could win 3-2, 3-0, but could lose 5 or 6, and that is the nature of this team. We are going to have to get used to watching a team that one week will win 3-1, the next week might lose 4 or 5. That is just how it's going to go until things settle down. And as I say, we're probably not going to see it settle down until Christmas time, which I know it sounds a mile away, but in reality, it's not that far away. There aren't that many games between now and Christmas. But one thing for certain, they aren't going to die wondering, this team, are they? They aren't going to die wondering. They are going to go for it, and you admire that. At 4-0 down, you admire the fact they're trying to go for it. They're trying to get back in the game, and at the risk of going, 5, 6, 7. So that's it. Right. So that's it from here at Carrow Road. City now head to Turkey on Monday. They fly out from Humberside Monday morning. They'll be there until Saturday of next week. And then they'll fly back and obviously build towards Sunday's game against Sunderland at the MKM Stadium, the first of 2 really big ones. Sunderland on the Sunday afternoon and then Burnley on the following Wednesday night. We will have the podcast with you, I think, Tuesday this week at the 1904 Club on Twitter. If you want to get in touch, send us your comments, your thoughts, etc, etc. It will also be on the YouTube channel later on Tuesday. Of course, we'll have plenty of stuff over the next few days. So that's it from here at Carrow Road. If you were one of the 700 or so that made the long journey down from East Yorkshire, safe trip back, and we will see you again soon.